In today's video, we are going to assemble a wooden file cabinet. Welcome to the Average Me channel. In today's video, we are going to assemble a wooden file cabinet. So here's the box, pretty good size, but what's interesting to me, it says do not cut with a sharp object. And how do I get it open? Well, I'm going to take my sharp object and I'm going to set it so hardly any of that blade is sticking out. That way I won't cut or hurt anything inside. And this is always packed in styrofoam. I like to get rid of that right away, or these pieces will be all over the house. But keep the cardboard because you'll want something to do your build on. I'm also going to vacuum as I go in order to keep everything really clean. Now I have all the pieces organized. You can see that they all have number stickers on them, so they're easy to identify. So time to get building. Now is a good time to make sure that you have all the pieces and that you can identify all of the hardware. This is really nice. All of the hardware is clearly marked in separate bags, and they even included a little Phillips screwdriver, but I'm still going to use my own. Okay, right out of the gate, there's something you have to look out for, because on the instructions, it just labels the part as 14. Well, in each bag labeled 14, there are actually 4 pieces. They look the same, but they are all different. For example, these two are mirror images of each other, as are these two. So 2 of these pieces will go on the left and right of the sides, and the other 2 will go on the left and right of the drawers. So be really careful, look at the instructions thoroughly, and make sure you know which piece you're working with. Okay, this is kind of strange because it shows these pieces and it tells you exactly what hole you should put the screws, but look at this. One of them is different. Notice these holes are not the same as those, but it is the correct piece. So I have 2 options. I can drill a hole in this bracket, or I can drill a hole in the piece of wood in order to match this. Because you can see I wouldn't have a hole there. So I think it'll be easier to drill the wood. For the one I have to drill, how do I make sure that this is in correct alignment? Well, there is a little trick. What I'm going to do is draw a straight line between these two. Then I'm going to screw this end in place. Look for the line in the other screw hole, and that's where I'm going to drill. So there's my line. I'm going to line that up when I see it in there. Mark that, and that's where I'll drill. So there's my new hole. It's at the right location, the right depth, and I know that this is going to be aligned properly. This is pretty straightforward. We're just screwing these in the pre-drilled holes using screw E. Make sure that you're doing it in the correct hole according to the directions. So here it'd be the second one in, and over here it is the third one from the back. Now the next thing we're going to do, every place there is one of these plastic inserts, we're going to screw in one of these posts. And these posts are going to work in conjunction with these cams, and that's what's going to hold the sides together. And now you're going to do the exact same thing with the other side. It'll just be a mirror image. But before we leave this side, we're going to install these rails. I believe these are part 6, and then the bottom shelf, which is part 5. This is where we use those cams I told you about. So let me show you how this works. You'll notice there is a big hole, and it's adjacent to a little hole. So you take these cams, and you snap them in, but there's a little arrow on these cams, probably too small to see here, and that should be facing up toward the hole. The cams go in there, so the small arrow is facing this hole, and when this is set over that post, turn that clockwise and it'll lock those in place. Since this post, of course, is already screwed in to what you're connecting it to, these will be attached very tightly. It's a real common fastening device that you find in these do-it-yourself projects. So we push that down, then I'm going to take that, I hope I can do this with one hand and lock that in place. And now that is tight. After assembling all that, here's where you should be. And here's where we utilize that post cam system. And the other side, piece number 2, is assembled exactly the same way, mirror image, except for these 2 brackets. You'll see there's a couple of holes drilled there. And these are going to be for the locking mechanism. There's one over here as well. And those are also put in with the size E screw. And now that the other side has been done as well, we're going to slide these 2 pieces together and then tighten them up with those cams. Now we're going to stand this up and then we're going to slide the back piece in. Or you can slide it in when it's lying down, whatever works for you. I've got a really high ceiling, so I'm going to stand it up and then slide that back piece in and let gravity work for me. The back piece is going to slide into this groove all the way down to the bottom. So you want it to seat in that groove. That went very smoothly. Now we want to make sure that this little notch is toward the top. And speaking of the top, it's time to put it on, and guess what? It's going to use the same cam and post system. By the way, there are these wooden dowels, and they will go in where there are holes that do not have the large hole adjacent to it. You might be able to push them in, or you might have to tap them in with a hammer. There's 4 of them on the top, and there were also a few of them down at the bottom. So we'll put our top on. We want to make sure that all these posts align and this back groove aligns with that top. Let's go ahead and put those on. There we go. Down. And then we just tighten up our cams. Now we're going to put in these plastic pieces. They'll keep that back a little tighter and more secure. There are no pre-drilled holes for these. There are 8, 2 to be evenly spaced along each side, and then 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. So you can see there's a little lip there, and wherever you want to do this, anywhere along here, slide that in like that, and then we're going to get the E size screw and just screw that in. Like I said, there is no hole, so it's just kind of self-tapping, and just let that tighten itself right in there. And that's going to put the back in more securely. And look at that, our cabinet is finished. Now all that's left is to assemble the 4 drawers. I'll do one of them on camera because all 4 are done the same way. The drawers are pretty straightforward. Front number 7, we'll put the 4 posts in here. Then we're going to take sides 9 and 10. We'll put the cams in and attach those. Then we'll slide it back in. There's our posts. There's our first side, number 10. There's our second side, number 9. Now let's slide that back in place. There we go. Now we're going to take our back piece, number 11, and that's going to fit right on top of there. Make sure the groove goes into place, and that's going to be screwed in with the D-side screws. Next we put on the handle. They're put in place with the screws labeled C. The screws are put in from underneath, and that's how it's going to attach. And just screw it in place. Oops, I missed something. Before we screw the backs on, we have to put these hanging bars in place. So I just loosened up the back here and put it in the slot there. There's a little hole underneath there, and it matches right there. Same thing with the other side. A hole in the front. And the reason this one has a slot is so you can adjust the size of the file. And then we're going to tighten this back down. Okay, that's better. Now we have these hanging bars in place. Now it's time to put the drawer slides on. It's pretty evident how they go on. The wheels are going to go toward the back of the drawer, and then you'll see that there's only one set of holes that are going to line up. So it's going to be the third one in from the front and the third one in from the back. So this is the front of the drawer, this is the outside, and this is the back. So the wheel will go in first. I'll attach that with my O screws. So there we go, securely attached. Let's go ahead and put the lock in. So this lock opens like that. So you have to make sure when you put this in place that that hasp that you saw come out is to the side, because that's where that bracket's going to be that we put in earlier. Now the weird thing about these locks is it comes with two locks, but they are not keyed identical. So you'll see that this one does not open, and I think that's kind of strange. So be careful, because you'll have two different sets of keys. And there you go. Now this one opens, so I want to make sure that it's put in that way. So there it is. Let's take a look at the front. So let's see how it works. Ah, wrong key. Okay, it turns. Let's look at the inside. And look at that, we did good. So to put this in, lean it up just a bit to clear that wheel. Tip it forward. And look how nicely these slide. Let's try a lock. And it locks. Now that was a fun build. One thing I didn't talk about, you will be getting this little L bracket. And the purpose of it is to put on top of your cabinet so you can attach it to the wall and prohibit, or at least reduce, the chances that it's going to tip over. Maybe not a bad idea, particularly if you have kids in the house. Well, I hope you found this helpful, or at least entertaining. If so, I'd like you to like and share the videos. Leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, please subscribe by clicking my face in the corner. And if you do, don't forget to ring that bell icon up above. That way you'll be notified when I post new videos. Thanks for joining me. I'm Mark, and this is the Average Me channel.